Ryan Hodson is a gentleman I met through a venture capital friend. As many of you know, I'm general partner in a VC myself, and I can only hope to be as successful as our next guest. Yeah. He runs Kodiak Capital and has the nicest jacket in the whole wide room.
That's what I'm thinking. Fits right in too.
Hey man, how are you?
That's good, man. Good to be
So you are the co-founder and portfolio manager of Kodiak Capital Group.
That's correct.
Okay, and you guys are a private investment fund, basically. Are you what's called a venture capital fund, or are you more of a private equity fund, or
There's a lot of euphemisms out there. We manage money for other people and put it into deals.
So you take other people's money and you find deals to put it into, right? Is it now? Do you do both publicly and privately traded?
We're 95% focused on the public markets.
Yes. And see, do you know why you do that?
No.
Because it's liquid.
It's liquid. They're audited, very transparent, and regulated by the commission.
Yeah. What about the other 5%?
Yeah, no, and that's why it's only 5%.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Can I ask you this? When you first went out and raised your first fund, how did you guys go about doing that? Was it because obviously you have no experience, you got no background. Yeah. I mean, you've got experience in business, but you don't have experience in this specific business, because that's a big deal when you go raise money.
Yeah, correct. Myself and my three partners all came from different walks of life, and in the downturn in the market in 2008, we had a couple of backers that we had managed money in other walks of life. And they said, yeah, we'll give you a couple bucks. And we started with our foot in our mouth, and we just had our 8-year anniversary. So.
Yeah. No kidding. Fantastic. Good stuff. And you guys had the last time we talked to you, you had venture investments into public equity, what you called a VIPE fund.
Correct.
Is that what this is still?
Correct. And now we're on our third fund. We just raised it, closed it last week, and we just had our 300th transaction since 2009.
No kidding. Talk about venture investments into public entities for people that kind of are because most of our audience is just investing in stocks and stuff. But you guys are investing in. I mean, what you're doing is you're validating that stocks are a good place to be, just in a much bigger way.
Right. So we're focused on the lower middle market, sub $500 million market cap.
Okay.
And a lot of these investors that are probably listening today come to guys like us that really have a grasp as to what's going on behind the scenes.
Do you first go after that dollar amount, or do you go after a sector?
It's sector. We try to stay ahead of the trend.
Yeah.
Whatever's disruptive or whatever we think's going to be disruptive. Right now, it's IT. A lot of
cannabis, though.
Yeah, cannabis.
Rusty Nails hosts a program on national television called Live High Live that we produce right out of Jump Television Studios. Yeah. But the point is, though, it really is. It's like cybersecurity was a few years back. It's the hottest investment sector. But there's some risk with that sector, mainly because the feds won't let it bank yet, right? Correct. Talk about the cannabis sector and talk about why you guys are attracted, because you guys are you're the pros.
Yeah. So we've been active in cannabis for the last 5 years, and over the last year, things have really ramped up. A lot more companies are ending up in the public realm. They're audited, and the last thing we want to do is be in an esoteric industry like cannabis without audited financials.
Well, so then and for people to understand that, what does that mean exactly? Like, because I've got guys that are 20 years old that are watching the program, and we've got seasoned investment professionals and everything else. What does it mean when you say audited financials? Because that's a demarcation point from a lot of companies, right?
So a lot of these companies need private capital, right? So we provide the private capital, and before we close on the deal, they provide us audited numbers that have been reviewed by a financial pro and filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission and reviewed by
Meaning
them.
that they look up their shorts with a flashlight, right?
Yeah, the money didn't just come out of
they look at every single transaction and they audit the books to where if you spent 35 cents on gum for a guest, it's showing up on the freaking books, right?
And don't you think that industry loves that, though, because it's been such a shadow?
Well, it's required. Oh, you mean the cannabis industry?
Yeah, the cannabis industry.
Yeah, how do you feel about that? That's a different story. I mean, it's
saying, go ahead, audit us.
Well, I mean,
because
suddenly you've got an industry that was unauditable, right?
Yeah. And, let's not mistake, the federal government still hasn't given the thumbs up. It's on a state-by-state basis.
Now, do you worry about that? Because and I'm just going to say this out loud, because we're big believers in the space, obviously, and we've had a number of companies on the air with us to kind of shed light on that. But I mean, let's face it. Let's say you got $100,000 into a publicly traded company that is in the cannabis space, and suddenly the attorney general comes out and says, "Hey, guess what? This ain't happening. We're shutting the whole thing."
Lock in the greenhouse.
That's probably why you probably get a better return on those things, right? Because there's much more risk.
Absolutely.
Oh wow.
It's definitely risk reward.
So when you're cutting the deal, you're saying, "Hey guys, you want our money? You're going to have to give us a premium here because it's a risky investment."
Right, and most of the investments in the cannabis industry are hands-off. They're not touching the plant. A lot of technology, a lot of point-of-sale software, a lot of infrastructure, lighting,
Well, let's face it. I mean, like in the state of California, we broadcast. And you may be watching us in New York City, you may be watching us in Colorado. What we didn't have here in California was an infrastructure to keep, let's say packaging for recreational marijuana.
Right.
Child-proof stuff. If you're going to tax it and control it as a state,
Yeah.
you got to know what you're giving
And
somebody.
the product testing.
Right.
And
No,
those
honestly,
labs.
so those are sort of the ancillary industries and the vertical.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of local companies right here in Southern California doing just that packaging.
The if you think in terms of just and I'd love to have you back on a regular basis. So if you want to stick on this subject here, on this sort of play, you would think that cannabis companies don't need the capital because it's so popular. But why? What's the number one reason companies need working capital for that?
We're one of only a handful of funds that are providing capital to these companies.
And what are your investors? Your investors are okay with that because if you were backed by a bank, you probably couldn't do that, could you?
Right. So these are high net worth
wow.
guys that are all about alcohol. We've done firearms, ammo.
Right. The
If I'm not mistaken, it's called the Vice Index,
The
right?
Vice stocks, yeah.
So we call it the VIPE fund, but a lot of guys call us the Vice fund.
The vape fund.
The
Is
vape.
what Russ is calling it. It's a new. We get a percentage of that.
All right, I got it. You can use it.
Do you think this is here to stay? I mean, is it only going to get
absolutely.
better? So would you guys ever consider just taking that space? Because by the way, investors are criteria specific. You've got VCs.
Specialties.
Well, some guys are only IT. Some guys are only cybersecurity. Some guys are only specialty retail. Sometimes
REITs.
they're only biotech. Our fund, Motion Ventures, is about sports technology. Could you guys feasibly see a fund coming out of your fund where it's specific to that?
Yeah, well, that's the latest fund that we just launched.
Oh, it is? It's a
What?
It's all cannabis. It's the
kidding.
Tactical
After it.
Cannabis Opportunity Fund.
No kidding.
That's
And
great.
we just closed that, and we've made a handful of investments in it already.
And when you see that, standing afar, and you see what this does for a company, I have to believe for you, it just makes you think, we got to go raise some more money because.
Well, I would say there's enough money on the sidelines to back these deals, but there's a lack of deals out there right now. We see a lot of garbage.
Well,
Yeah.
Rusty, get out there and find him some deals. Go bird dogging.
I
my
will
friend.
be
Ryan,
right
thanks
back.
so much, man.
Good to be here.
I'm going down.
I want to have you back. It's so enlightening to see a professional investor, not a professional money manager,
No.
a professional investor, talk about that space.
Yeah.
And whether you use cannabis recreational or you use it for medicinal purposes or whatever, or whether you're taking CBD oil or whatever, that's the space you're talking about.
More professionals getting in, doctors and investors.
That's exactly right. His name is Ryan Hodson, Kodiak Capital. You can go to KodiakFunds.com. There it is. All right, coming up, Lord Russell Industries. We got some news. Got some
Yes.
business to take care of.
The eye bag.
This is a big biz show. See you in a minute.